Imagine a royal dynasty hiring a PR firm to polish their family tree. You'd expect them to erase the scandals, right?
Oh, absolutely. Hide the messy details completely.
Exactly. Just highlight the pureblood ancestors. So why does the royal genealogy of Israel's greatest ancient king, deliberately brag about his lineage coming from foreign outcasts?
Yeah, it's basically the ultimate anti-PR strategy.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We've got a fascinating stack of your notes looking at ancient scriptures, specifically chapter 4 of the book of Ruth. And our mission today is to figure out how these ancient texts take seemingly broken stories and transform them into a massive legacy of faith.
Right, and we are looking directly at the lineage of King David, where the text places two foreign women from rival nations right in the main trunk of the family tree.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why would an ancient text deliberately highlight a royal lineage that completely breaks the rules? We have a guy named Boaz acting as a kinsman redeemer for Ruth. But before we get to the romance, we should probably explain what that actually means.
Well, a kinsman redeemer wasn't just a wealthy guy doing a favor.
Right.
This was a strict, ancient legal mechanism. If an Israelite family hit rock bottom, a close relative was legally obligated to step in.
Step in and buy back their lost land, right?
Exactly. Buy the land and marry the widow to keep the deceased man's family name alive.
But wait, let me push back on this. Because Ruth is from Moab.
Yeah.
And your notes point out that the Moabites were historic enemies of Israel.
Oh yeah, bitter enemies.
Right, so even if Boaz is legally stepping up for his relative Naomi, wouldn't marrying her Moabite daughter-in-law be political and social suicide for a prominent guy like Boaz?
I mean, in a normal situation, yes. It shatters every social norm.
Yeah.
But the text uses a specific Hebrew word here to explain what's happening, and that word is hazed.
Which usually gets translated as loving kindness, I think.
True, but that makes it sound like a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
Hez is actually a fierce covenantal loyalty.
Yeah.
Boaz recognizes that Ruth has already shown incredible haze to Naomi, Israel, and God. In return, it means his truth and faithfulness. God's emet is revealed through Boaz. God is making a bold claim that outsiders who seek him are brought in entirely by grace, regardless of their nationality.
That brings us to the local women, because they actually tell Naomi that Ruth is more to you than 7 sons.
Which is a huge statement back then.
Right. In an ancient patriarchal society, 7 sons was the ultimate symbol of blessing and wealth. To say a foreign, destitute widow is better than that. It's like an exclusive VIP club deliberately bragging about how its members failed the strict entry criteria.
Exactly. They aren't in the club because they met the criteria. They're in because the criteria themselves were superseded by grace.
Which is completely counterintuitive when you really think about it. And it makes me wonder, why Boaz? Was he just strictly, coldly obeying this legal duty of a redeemer? Or was there something deeply personal driving this fierce loyalty?
What's fascinating here is we actually have to look backward to find out. Yeah, if you cross-reference your notes in the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 5, the genealogy lists Boaz's parents. It says, Salmon fathered Boaz by Rahab.
Wait, Rahab, as in the Canaanite woman from Jericho.
The very same.
So Boaz's own mother was a foreigner with a deeply complicated past.
Yeah, so it almost certainly wasn't an accident that Boaz acts this way. He didn't just learn about grace in theory, he was raised by it.
Wow.
His own family possessed a living, breathing testimony of a foreign woman who was welcomed by God's grace. Rahab chose to stand with the God of Israel when Jericho fell.
Despite a past that could have easily condemned her.
Exactly. She was brought in by faith.
So Boaz looks at Ruth and doesn't just see a legal obligation or a political liability. He sees the exact same faith his mother had.
Yep. His obedience in redeeming Ruth proves how grace flows from one generation to the next. Rahab's faith shaped Boaz, Boaz's grace rescued Ruth, and together they built the exact lineage that leads to King David and ultimately to Jesus Christ.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We read about Boaz making this massive historical impact. But the sources point out this actually stems from ordinary daily habits.
Yeah, we often think our past disqualifies us from building something meaningful.
Right.
But Boaz didn't summon this massive, history-altering grace out of thin air. It was a daily posture he cultivated.
Which is exactly why your notes emphasize carving out a daily quiet time, right? To pause, read, and reflect.
Precisely. Those quiet daily choices are the actual foundation for passing on faith to the next generation.
Without being hindered by fear or prejudice or past wounds, God's grace turns broken stories into a legacy of faith. Boaz's quiet obedience and what probably felt like a personal local decision ultimately altered the course of human history.
It really did.
Which leaves you with this to chew on. Today, millions of people take DNA tests hoping to find royalty or greatness in their bloodlines. But if the greatest king of ancient Israel derived his true legitimacy from the outsiders and outcasts in his family tree, how might that change the way we view the skeletons in our own family closets?